Welcome to the Impact Room, a business, CX and leadership podcast brought to you by the team at Douglas Jackson. We feature real conversations and powerful insight from impactful and diverse leaders driving growth, business, CX and transformation that helps elevate and shape exceptional leadership. So let's dive into our next episode, and please don't forget to like, subscribe or share if you like this content. Thank you. Hello, today on the Impact Room, I'm delighted to with 3 decades of experience across banking, tech and financial services. Carole has been helping to shape banking through digital enablement, people and customer-centric leadership. Leaving school at 16, securing a first job with Barclays, working with companies like Nationwide, Salesforce and Medallia, before coming full circle back to Barclays again as a managing director. Now a NED and Board Advisor, Carole combines deep operational insight with the belief that transformation is only as strong as the people driving it. Carole, hello, welcome, lovely to see you again.
Hi, Michelle. Good to see you, and thank you for having me.
Not at all. Really looking forward to you sharing your story. So, as I mentioned it there in the intro, and your career, the fact that you left school at 16, you began your career with Barclays, then almost 30 years later, you land back with them as a managing director. So, I mean, what does that look like? What were some of the key moments looking back that defined that journey?
Oh God, too many. I mean, how long have you got? We'll be here for hours. But I think, and it makes me sound really old when I say this, but thinking back to when I was 16, women in particular didn't get very far within financial services. You had to be a certain type. You had to do all of your banking exams. And I was never a favour and never particularly good when it came to exams. Practical stuff, I'm fine. But it never sort of, I didn't really enjoy that side of it. So my young 16 self started off in the back office. I wasn't even important enough to be a cashier. I had to go and, for those that are old enough will remember, I had to process all the checks. A lot of the audience today go, what's the check? I don't know what that is. But was processing the checks and stuff like that, and never really expected to go very further. I'd get married, settle down, have kids. And thankfully the world changed. And with that, so did my aspirations, I guess. So I think what really defines it, no surprises, is the people. There have been some key people on my journey that have really believed in me, probably took some chances on me. So, for me, it's about how do you find those sponsors? How do you find those mentors throughout your career? And really listen to what they've got to say and then take that on board. So that's, I guess a big part for me. I think also taking some sideways moves. It doesn't always have to be about promotion. It doesn't always have to be about a bigger role. Think about what's going to add to your skill set. And make sure that you enhance that. So sometimes you could go from a really large leadership role and then all of a sudden you are the party of one, but actually you learn something else throughout that part of that particular moment in your career. And as always, continue to develop yourself. Never stop learning, never stop being curious. And for me, those sort of, I guess, main points throughout my career have held me in good stead.
Excellent 3 points there. If you don't mind, I'd just like to talk to you a little bit on maybe 1 or 2 of them, because I think they are really important. So this sponsor mentorship, especially if we're in this hybrid world, I think it's a little bit more different or difficult for, perhaps a younger generation, if they're not with leaders like you or someone else every day, seeing them every day in an office, what would you how do they identify a sponsor or a mentor? Or do you think that the responsibilities may be on the sponsors or the mentors, the business to be structured that way to go looking for them? Do you have any sort of little bit more insight or tips on that, Carole?
Yeah, I don't think it is the responsibility of the business, albeit if you've got that opportunity, great. But people don't always necessarily work for big corporates. And then sometimes, dare I say, actually, to have a mentor outside of where you currently work, I think also gives you a different perspective. And they don't have to be an expert. In my example, for example, on banking, it could just be a friend or a family, someone that owns their own business. And it's just someone for you to bounce off of. LinkedIn is always a great way to connect with people, and see what the types of things that they're posting and following. So if you feel like you resonate with someone, what have you got to lose by reaching out and saying, can we have a virtual coffee? Or if you're living in the same town, city, can we just pop together and have a coffee? So I think, don't put a title on it. I would like you to be my mentor. That feels like, people ask me to be their mentors all the time, and I'm more sort of able to turn around and say, look, I've got, there's 3 or 4 people that I do mentor formally, but actually, why don't we keep it a bit more formal? Just reach out and we'll have a coffee from time to time. It's the same principle, but without putting a label on it. And, I think those, particularly when you're an internal, having someone say, look, here's a little bit about me. Could you sponsor me? If my name's mentioned, could you, if I tell you a little bit about myself, could you sponsor me within that conversation? So there's lots of different ways that you can do it, but you have got to go out there and grab it. And you're the person that's got to be in the driving seat to put that next coffee, that next meeting in the diary. Now, don't make it too often, because obviously you can bombard somebody, but at the same time, don't leave it year after year, because so every few months, whatever's right for you and that particular person, but you've got to be in the driving seat of that.
Yeah, great points there. And so, given that you're saying, it's the onus is upon ourselves, and then when you talk about this, never stop learning, be curious. I suppose for some people that part of it's really difficult. I know myself, when I talk to people, even like at your level, they're not always good at networking, not always good at building and influencing, and it's something obviously clearly you're very or have been got very good at and accomplished over the years. But do you have any sort of advice, I suppose, there, when if someone is needing to be curious or never stop learning and developing themselves, perhaps would you point them to something particular to help? Is it just where they need it, do you think, that self-awareness of where and what to then go find, or what would you suggest?
I think it's just about, it's that sociable side and having a conversation, because you don't, do I sit down, and I've got some internal, I did have some internal and some external mentors, and it's just about having a chat. What are you, imagine me and you bumped into each other and I said, oh, come on, let's go and grab a coffee. We wouldn't have an agenda, but I would be interested in you. You would be interested in me. And that, dare I say, is the start of it. So again, it comes back to, don't put those labels on it. Now, I might have a killer question for you, and in which case, let me ask that question. So do a bit of prep. What is it you want to know about that person? But try not to make it come back to that, making it really too formal. And dare I say, you probably have to be a bit vulnerable, because you also have to go, this is how I'm feeling. I've got this situation and I don't know how to handle it. What advice would you give me? So that vulnerability in terms of, this is how that situation is making me feel. I've never experienced it before, or I have experienced it, I don't know how to deal with it. So again, that trust that you build with that person, you've got to make sure that you almost contract up front, if you're going to do that, to turn around and say, look, I'm prepared to share a bit of myself, but can we make sure that whatever happens stays within these 4 walls?
Great advice, thank you. So if you, looking back for yourself then, I mean, great advice there, what would you have said to your 16-year-old self?
Oh, goodness me. Well, apart from to invest in technology shares.
I
know, exactly. I missed the boat on that one.
Crypto, man. God, where would we be? We'd have our own island.
I know. Apple shares back in 1988. But no, seriously, I think don't let anything hold you back. I think some people, without realising, some people fortunately do realise, but they can try to derail you because of their own opinions or their own view of the world, and you can't let that stop you. So, for example, I was told I would never get anywhere within my career because of the way I spoke, that East London accent that I've got. And this was told to me by a rather snobby lady that said, Carole, your accent is going to hold you back. You're never going to get very far. I was also told, because I didn't go to university, that I would never, ever become a director. I would never, ever be a managing director. So people can be quite snobbish. I never, ever let that stop me get in the way of what I wanted to achieve. And it's nice to know that I can almost say, well, you know, you were wrong. The world has moved on. Thankfully, the world does want more diversity around the table. They want people that are not just from a university educated background. They want people with real life experience. They don't just want the Eton educated boys club. There's still a lot of ways to do. We've still got a long way to go, as you know, with that field, but the world has moved on. So I never let anybody say you can't because of. I almost want to prove them right.
Yeah, excellent. And I think, again, those are really important points, because I think today, I don't know, I was talking to someone else about it. I think when we were younger, and I had very similar experiences to you, I think there was something in us that we never didn't believe it was possible, the power of possible, regardless of all the things that told us otherwise.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think that whilst people are, in some respects, have more opportunity than ever, and more access to more things, actually the reverse is true. They feel that there is less diversity, there is less opportunity, there is less possibility of them getting on. And I'm not sure. I think to your point, really, you've got to not listen to those voices, haven't you? You've just got to believe. I don't know where the belief comes from, I think, is the question that I'm trying to ask. And how do you give that to somebody that perhaps is getting a knockback, is being told, you know, that maybe they haven't got a degree versus someone that has? But a no doesn't mean no forever, does it? I think maybe that's what I'm trying to get to as well, Carole. You can get no's, and I was always taught the more no's you get, the closer to a yes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think, is there anything else that you would say to that?
Well, I think it comes back to, I go, you know, particularly if you're just leaving school and people are still deciding their paths.
Yeah.
For me, it's about how you continue to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got to never stop learning, regardless. You know, you go through your whatever level you get to your education, but how do you continue to invest in yourself? If you think about at the moment, there's loads of free courses out there that you can do on AI or cybersecurity. Go and do it. Just because you're of a certain age or within a certain field, these are skills that everybody needs. So the essential digital skills for work, the essential digital skills for life, make sure that you've got them. When I think about my own career from an early stage, even right the way up till now, one of the things I've noticed when I sat back and reflect to go, you know, sometimes I can't believe it myself. How the hell did I get to be a managing director? But I've noticed that every time my career has gone from here to here, it's because I've developed myself. I've invested in myself. And then one of the things I did, particularly when I was in leadership, that if I went out and I learned something, and I went on a course, or I went to a networking event, so I went to a conference, and do go to every conference you can do, because again, it's amazing what you can learn from all the keynote speakers, all the vendors that I know they try and sell you something, but listen to what their technology does. I would then take that information, I would then come back and share it with my team. And then my team would naturally learn. My team's performance would naturally go up. If they did a good job, guess what? It reflected on me. So for me, I think continue to invest in yourself. And then when I think about, particularly, I'm really passionate about mentoring and sponsoring females. Then I think it's about, how do you leave the ladder down? And that's my little phrase that I often use to say, actually think about when I was younger, when I was in their shoes. I would love to have had someone like me that said, I'll give you a bit of time. I'm going to share some words of wisdom, and whether you choose to listen or not, you know, feedback's a gift, as they say. But I always try to leave the ladder down and try to share my pitfalls, what I learned, my scars, my bruises, because hopefully others won't make the same mistake, or can learn from the mistakes that I've done as well. So for me, always leave that ladder down.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for sharing. So, I mean, if you look back at your 30 years in banking, CX, digital transformation, again, what personal skills or mindsets would you say have consistently served you well? I think you've talked about this quite a bit already, but you know, what would you reference, and where do you think it's helped you adapt, or how do you think it can help you adapt to change?
So there's, you know, curiosity and that continuous learning. We've spoken about that. I think adaptability and resilience. So change can be absolutely exhausting, especially if you're working in a legacy organisation. So the ability to, I guess, pivot without losing that purpose, and see transformation not as a disruption but as an evolution. It's absolutely essential. When I think back to some of our colleagues when we was doing digital transformation, a lot of them are saying, I don't want to talk to customers about digital because it means I'm going to lose my job. My challenge back to them is, if you don't talk about digital, then you're going to lose your job because you'll become irrelevant. So for me, you've got to continually adapt to that. Customer obsession, whether you're re-engineering processes, launching those digital channels, the customer lens should simplify sort of complex decisions. So if it doesn't make the customer's life easier, it's probably not the right solution. So that customer obsession, I think, helps you adapt to that change. And I think when I think about my leadership style, I think that empathy and collaboration, that transformation will only succeed when people are feeling heard. If you want to know what's going on in an organization, go and talk to your team. They will tell you everything that's wrong with your systems, your processes, why it's hard to serve our customers, etc. So really collaborating with them, having the empathy to understand them, but being bold to turn around and say, actually, we can't change that for X, Y, Z reason. And then I think finally, maybe one of the sweet spots I've had from going into financial services, then into tech, and then back to financial services is, how can you translate between that tech language and the human impact? Because a lot of talk at the moment around AI and how it's taking our jobs and all of that sort of doom and gloom. You still need the human. So you've got to make sure that you're comfortable with ambiguity, you're comfortable with experimentation, all of that together with that authenticity and I guess integrity. That is the currency, I think, that can make you successful when you're trying to adapt to all that change.
And I mean, there's so much in there, isn't there, that you've just given. But I think one of the key themes already from what you've said, and when we're talking about development, I think good communication runs through everything so far that you've discussed, right? From asking for mentorship, for understanding customer, to sort of transformation, how adapting to this digital world, and I think the ability to listen, to give back, and then to sort of go learn and develop others, that sort of mentorship as well. That's all so important, but lost a lot of the times in communication, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think for me, people don't follow transformation plans. They follow people they trust.
Yes.
So for me, it's not about the transformation plan. It's about that. Take people on the journey with you, explain why you've got the transformation and what the end goal looks like, and then get them to come on the journey with you. Don't let them be trailing behind.
And when you talk about the end game, I was talking to somebody recently, and they said there is no end game anymore, right? The transformation is just continuous. And when you say we're tired of change or we don't want to change, we've really got to get better at that, haven't we? Because it just is relentless right now, and everything's happening so quickly, isn't it?
Agreed.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of dealings in digital. I mean, when I first met you way back at the Pirate Club, was it called the Pirate Club or something?
Pirate Castle or something like that.
Pirate
Yes, I
Castle in
remember.
London. But it was at a time when you'd sort of successfully developed and ran the Digital Eagles program, which was sort of ahead of its time really for the bank. And then, as you say, you've worked with tech firms like Salesforce, etc. So looking at banking and building societies today, many of which are on legacy systems, are struggling with sort of relevance or digitization with their customers, how do you think that they can stay relevant, appeal to new customer types, balance that human touch whilst offering that technological advancement?
Yeah, so it's challenging. You've got the traditional banks, you've got the the fintechs, you've got the payment platforms, you've got the building societies. So, and they've all got their own technology plan. So I think for me, technology can't replace empathy, but it should amplify it. So how do you humanize what your digital transformation is? So you've got to design those experiences that feel personal and not transactional. You've got to combine the AI driven insights with that empathetic sort of human approach as well. And I think this is where, people are talking about branch closures, for example, and what that means for banking. But I think if you can keep the humans available for those moments of emotion, complexity, vulnerability, that could be, when you buy a house, that could be when you lose a loved one, it can be financial distress because of divorce, or any life event that you could possibly think of. Keep the humans available for that, because I don't think AI could ever replace some of that. And then you can use the digital to do the day-to-day transactional stuff. I think it comes back to what you were saying earlier. Transformation it's not an end game. It isn't a one-off project. It's a muscle. So you've got to empower your employees to innovate from within. You've got to create cross-functional teams. And what I still see is, particularly in the larger organisations, the product team sits here, the customer team sits there, the operational team sits here, and there's nothing that connects the two. So how do you get the right data to the right people at the right times to create that collaboration, not just between the people, but between the different functions? And that could be risk and compliance and all of our colleagues that sit within that world as well. So AI and tech can help with that, but you should measure your success not just through the efficiency of that, but by the customer impact and the engagement. And then I think how you blend that physical and that digital experience. A lot of customers love to do things with the fintechs until something goes wrong. So they use those digital channels because it's convenient, it's efficient, it's there on my app, it's lovely, I've got my phone. But the second something goes wrong, what do people want? They don't want to talk to a chatbot. They do want that human interaction for that reassurance, that advice, and the community connection. So I think for me, the winning formula is it's not digital or human, it's digital and human, which you then seamlessly sort of combine together.
Interesting. And it's funny, even in the response to that, when you're talking about these different siloed functions, and when we talk back to the career side of things, I wonder how businesses and individuals, in that curiosity, can get more aligned with their fellow people in risk, in product, in compliance, because as you've said, it helps them develop and get better skills, they get more knowledge, they get more expertise, they do a better job, but also perhaps for their own career as well, their network improves, they get exposed to more things. It's a win-win, right?
Absolutely.
But businesses don't tend to lean into that, and individuals don't either. They tend to stay in their lane too often.
I know. And one of the things that in my last role, where I was leading a lot of the branch teams, one of the things I would always do, all of my head office colleagues, the first thing I would do is invite them to come out and spend a day in a branch. Right. So don't try to be there to go, oh, yes, my job is to help you, Carole. Come out and see and understand exactly what colleagues on the front line have to put up with every single day. And that's just one example. Then I would say to the colleagues on the front line, get yourself into head office, go and spend a day, walk in their shoes, see what it feels like, because you certainly get a different perspective if you do that.
Excellent. So you're very well networked and highly respected across the industry. So how have you built and maintained your network over the years, especially now as you're moving into advisory and non-executive director roles?
So I'm very good at staying in touch with people. And that might just be the odd WhatsApp message, meet for coffee, meet for lunch. A lot of my colleagues will laugh because I always say that I'm the lady what does lunch. But even if there's no other reason than just to see how they are, don't feel that you've got to have a reason to go, oh, I need to, Michelle's only going to want to see me if she wants to talk about X, Y, and Z. Actually, no, just to come and have a coffee to see how you are. Number one, from a friendship point of view, just to, to check in on someone's well-being. Never underestimate how far that goes. But also LinkedIn, for example, is a great tool. Every job I've ever got, LinkedIn has been somewhere involved in that. And that's not me applying for it. I've never applied for a job on LinkedIn, but that's where someone's reached out to me on a DM to say, oh, there's a job here I think you'd be interested in, or can we meet for a coffee? So just that connection, I think, is a great result of, you know, keeping the network going. If people reach out to me, I very rarely say no to people in terms of if the people that I know, if they're asking for something, you know, can I just take 10 minutes of your time, then I'll always, you know, be gracious and give them my time, because guess what? You never know when you might want to ask the same of them. So I think for me, it's really important to stay in touch and never think, oh, goodness me, I haven't spoken then so much. When I think about going back to your point, me and you have been connected for many years. Sometimes we can go months without speaking, but on occasion, every now and then, you're brilliant at it. You'll just come back and you'll just check in to say, just seeing how you are. And 9 times out of 10, there might not be anything there, but it's just nice to say, you know, I'm still thinking of you, and let's continue to stay in touch.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and and I know when I speak to so many people, like even at your level, let alone sort of, you know, if more junior people coming up, just the ability to do it is so hard, because as you said, and I see all the time, you know, people don't want to talk to me very often. It's like, I haven't got anything, Michelle, but like you say, I'm not doing it from a clear transactional perspective. Yes, sure, if I can help someone commercially, but I think for a lot of people, that rejection is really tough if someone ignores them. But people are busy, or not right now. People, it's not a personal thing very often, is it? And I think that you will always find some people, and find those people that are, I say, your sort of tribe or your family, or sort of more, you know, relevant to you and your career, or there to help. And perhaps not everybody's going to be that. So don't worry about those people that might fall by the wayside, but don't stop yourself from still talking, because we can get in our own head, can't we, and we stop it from happening, when actually, as you say, it's so important and will serve you so well over time.
Definitely, and people by people, right? So and it comes back to, I think, people, just imagine, people always remember how you made them feel. So even if it is just to go back and to say, I'm really sorry, I'm too busy, I can't at the moment. I think that in itself, but my son is looking for a job at the moment. He's just graduated, and the amount of organisations that don't even respond to any applications, I think it's just heartbreaking, particularly for that generation. So again, that's why I always try to think about, how would I feel if I was in someone's shoes and they reached out. Then I always try to come back and you know, just give them that little boost if I can.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So, is there anything else that you wanted to share or to finish on, Carole?
Well, you know, again, just for me, if I think about, you know, the reflection on everything, it's after years of, I guess, leading those transformation roles, delivering results. How, you know, for me, that's the end of my career in that space now, but it's a new chapter. So now I'm thinking about more NED roles, more advisory roles. And if I think about everything that's held me in good steadfast throughout my whole career, the summary, I guess, is keep continuing to invest in yourself and develop yourself. Make sure you've got that purpose. You know, people said to me, if you're going to give up your full-time sort of corporate career, Carole, you're going to be really bored. I really am not. And I think it's about, how do you make sure you've got that purpose? What is your contribution going to be to society? So for me, I think now it's less about me steering my ship day to day, and now helping set the right course and ensuring it stays true for other organisations. So that's where I think I can sort of step in now, and I just encourage others to do the same for themselves when it's right in their career. But, you know, people need to help more people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's so much, you know, even just, they say, if you're just a little bit kind or doing something for somebody else, it helps you personally feel so much better. And I think certainly in this day and age, when we all feel a little bit like the world is coming in on us, you know, and we get a little bit too inward looking, certainly I think with social media and devices and what have you, if we could just look outward and do something for somebody else, I think, you know, it goes an awful long way. And I think it really does change the course. And certainly with your expertise, you know, I know you'll make a fantastic NED and advisor for so many many types of businesses, and wish you all the very success with that. And I really appreciate everything that you've shared today. It's been really valuable, and what a fascinating career. We could sort of sit here and talk for days, I'm sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really enjoyed it as always.
Thank you, Carole.